Morning. Just a little thought for you today. I'm just off to the skip, but I just had a thought mulling around my mind that I thought I wanted to share with you because it's quite an interesting thought. That famous verse in Isaiah chapter 53. He was wounded for our transgressions, bruised for our iniquities. Transgressions means to go too far. So when we sin, we transgress. It means that we have gone too far. We've spent too long with that sin. We've gone beyond it. Trans as this idea of movements of transport, transit. Transform as this idea of motion and movement. So transgression means to go too far, to travel too far with that sin. And Jesus was wounded for the sin that we've travelled too far with. But then it says he was bruised. This is brilliant. For our iniquities. Iniquity means this idea of inequality. That's how we get the word iniquity. It comes from comparing. When we have iniquity, it compares. We start to compare what we've got with what other people have got. And we get in equals or iniquity. The first sin, Adam and Eve, came from the sin of iniquity, where they began to compare. They had everything. They lived in a perfect world. And yet Satan came along and got them to what? Compare. And he got them to come up with inequals. Because he said, look, if you like God, then... And he began to get them to think of what they hadn't got rather than what they had got. And they came up with inequals or iniquity. Now, this last little thought that I thought was interesting. He was bruised for our iniquity. What's a bruise? A bruise appears slowly, but it's inward as well. It's an inward bleed, and it appears slowly, gradually with time. And it's to bleed on the inside. It's a wound on the inside that appears slowly, not straight away. And that's how iniquity works. It begins to niggle at us slowly. It appears inwardly. It's an inward battle on the inside where we're comparing what we've got with what other people have got. And we come up with this sin of iniquity. We're looking at racism a lot, aren't we, in the news at the moment with everything that's going off. And that's a sin of iniquity too, inequals. Interesting that the first sin came from that as well. Just a little thought today that I had.